Well, when you sit down to write a blog post, is it comfortable to do that kind of thing as a creative activity? Are there times when the words are stuck or you're just not sure what you're really trying to say, or like you know what you want to say, but the how isn't really working? Well, recently I finished a 100 days in a row blogging challenge, and that project plus other experience from writing it, like general team collaboration, different UX writing things, manifestos for working together, and pitches for funding. Well, I've noticed things that I've been practicing that I think would be helpful to share. Here in this mini workshop episode of the Lean Into Artcast, I'll share some of these practices to write quickly with constraints and prompts and instinct. And I can't wait to hear Jersey's thoughts on this because I wonder if they'll be similar or go in other directions for how he tackles writing.
Hello and welcome to this Lean Into Artcast mini workshop episode. This is where we explore an art or creative task and demonstrate how we think about it and work on it. My name is Jersey Drozd. I'm a cartoonist and teaching artist.
And I'm Rob Stenzinger. I'm a UX designer, interactive maker, and teaching artist.
Good to see you once again, Rob, and excited about this workshop or mini workshop because this is something that I think I get stuck on is writing the copy that goes along with the things that I make. That's the angle that I'm probably gonna be most excited about because like I made the thing, I drew a thing. Oh, now I gotta like write like 500 words about it. No, I drew the thing. Here it is. Look at it. Look, it's good.
Yeah, exactly. It is shared. Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be useful whether it's writing copy about a thing that you made and you need to present it or merchandise it or something, somehow give it a sort of a verbal life. And it's certainly useful here if you're thinking of posting in a variety of situations. So that's what we'll cover here. We'll talk about, like we're doing right now, why this matters. We'll do a demonstration, give you an example to try, and talk about what was what we feel better about having explored this topic. So
now, if people are tuning in and they don't necessarily have that direct connection with the topic like I just expressed, who would you say needs this and why?
Well, you probably write messages to someone somehow. It could be in a forum or in a newsletter. Newsletters are a pretty useful thing. Yeah, they're fairly ubiquitous. Yes, they can be a mixed bag as far as the ones that you subscribe to or whatnot, but you can always unsubscribe. But honestly, they're a really powerful, important tool for independent creators. I'm fully sold on that. And it can sound like, whatever. So what? This whole episode isn't about newsletters, but it's certainly a common need. And it's because you own the conversation. There isn't an intermediary shaping what happens. And that is very powerful and unique. So wherever, it could be texting, could be forum posts, Discord, Patreon, like you need to post your thoughts and talk about what matters to you somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. What are we gonna work around? Are there any things to look out for in this bog?
Well, I mean, time constraints are certainly a big deal. I mean, you want to get your message put together in a reasonable amount of time. It's thinking of the what and really getting your words out, that are here for you right now isn't always easy, because this sometimes is the extra thing like you just described, where I did my post, it's cool, check it out. And it's cool, check it out is text, but is it enough? Is it given, does it really pull people in and get to the heart of why you care and into more of a narrative about the thing? It's often in that extra work to do.
Yeah, there's a Sebastian Maniscalco joke where he talks about his dad, and he said like if ever he told his dad, who's first generation immigrant to America, he's like, oh, I'm gonna go to California and find myself. He's like, you're gonna find yourself? You're right here. I found you. You're in my house, right? It's like we have to be careful about our language. Language matters.
Yeah, it's let's see, and somewhere in there, what I'm hoping to do. I mean, it's a mini workshop. It's not going to be exhaustive, but like hopefully find ways to sort of tease out that idiosyncratic your voice into the thing, because forcing yourself to fill ideas into a certain volume isn't really what we're talking about either. We're trying to get your comfortable language out, and that's different. And so even if you sort of get past the resistance of, well, I need to describe the thing, well, hopefully it's more than just the factual set of descriptions, and it's you got feelings in there too. So
cool.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we're going to use some prompts, we're going to use some constraints, and I'll work on a post while we're talking here, and it's an example for us to to explore. So I may pull the cooking show trick of the classic. This is one of my favorite metaphors to misuse, like talking about stunt people and whatnot, because they're actually not cavalier at all. They're super scientific. Where but metaphorically we can talk about them being cavalier. So in cooking shows, they'll be like, we just prepared the thing, let me put that in this oven.
Yeah.
And then, oh, look at the time, I'm pulling it out of this other oven. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun. I'm probably going to do that.
Oh, that's great. Okay, cool. So how about it sounds like you've prepared us for success. I'm ready to dive in. But let's take a 3-minute break before we get there, and talk about some people who make the show possible. If this is helping you think and do useful creative work. A great thing you can do is support the show by supporting us on Patreon. There we go. Patreon.com/leanintoart is the website, and it's a way for you to give us a monthly upvote. If you believe in the work we're doing, if it's helping you do creative work, you can support us for as little as $1 a month. And I want to thank 5 people who've been doing that. Dado, thank you, Dado, for believing in us and what we do. David Armentrout, thank you, David. Kelly Ishikawa, good to see you, Kelly. Matt Zolman, and Nate Marcel, thank you so much. And you can also check out our brand new Lean Into Art Labs, which, let me tee it up for you. What is a lab? Well, do you need a place to show your work in progress? We can all use encouragement and feedback. Have you found the gentle creative project pressure of a due date or a demo day useful? The Lean Into Art monthly 90-minute lab session is a place where we host a creative group of professionals developing their projects. The constraints give it meaning. It's a chance to show up, to share what you're working on and what might be blocking you. And we will be there to encourage you to find new possibilities. It's also a place to work in the presence of others, whether you choose to share or just hang back. Each session, held on the 3rd Wednesday of every month, is facilitated by one of the 2 hosts of Lean Into Art. Both me and Rob have decades of experience in teaching and facilitation of creative groups and processes for all kinds of projects. Each session will be a unique one-time experience. Sign up to reserve your spot for the low introductory price of $10 per month through our Patreon, patreon.com/leanintoart. Thanks to everybody who supports us there. It means a lot.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you know what comes next?
Yeah. All right. That's
it.
good.
Never fails. It never fails. If you aren't fired up to learn something right now, check your pulse. Check your pulse. Go see a doctor. That theme song, man.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, sincere, and joyfully shouty.
That sounds like us. All right, so demo time. How do we begin?
Well, okay. So you need to, the idea of the flow of this, we're going to talk about, before you start, and then what it's like to start and then, get a post out. That's our goal here, right? And well, you'll need to choose somewhere to write, and pick somewhere that you feel comfortable and safe writing. I am not a huge fan of writing directly into web pages overall, with one exception, and that is the Google tools and maybe equivalent competitors, right? So something that was purpose built to make sure your work is safe as you type it along. Something that's just like, no offense, but like a blog press post form, Squarespace form, I wouldn't work directly in there. I work somewhere that you can save your work, come back to it, and uh, and ideally it has some kind of word count option. And I use Typora. Um, I don't know if what's funny. I always get hung up on pronunciation. So I'll say it again. Typora. It's a free open source app. I think they intend to go paid at some point, but or is it open source? No, I don't. It's free. I know it's free for sure. So this is a markdown editor. I happen to write in this way, but you should write in whatever tool that you feel comfortable with. I like that Typora has a built-in word count thing, unobtrusive, simple look, what have you. But you could use Google Docs also. There is a word count in the menus that you can activate. Not a problem. It can be ever present too. You don't have to just sort of check in with it and have a dialogue pop up. It can be there the whole time you're typing. So you've got your tool chosen. You're going to, start working. What are you really doing? What's the general purpose and circumstance here? Those are your constraints, and they're good. They're helpful to get you to move you further along toward getting a post done and getting the right kind of post. So the constraints I like to think of are time, knowledge, your container, and audience. So to describe those, and by the way, Jersey, react and stuff, chat along the way if you've got thoughts and questions.
I will. I'll jump in when
because that is, I mean, we tend to, whoever's presenting the mini workshop does a lot more talking, but this one, I don't know. It's
well, I guess if I were to like come in and ask for clarification on something, when you say audience, I think it's worth brainstorming some examples of what audience means, because I think something that I, as a beginning artist, fell victim to was my comics are for everyone, right? I'm like, okay, well, older me now says, yes, that's ideal. That's lovely. It'd be great if everybody loved your comics, but you're probably making them for a very specific group first, and the way you talk about it around that probably matters, right? So, and I bet we have different audiences in different contexts, right? As somebody who works for, like, you do consultation with big businesses, you do personal one-on-one coaching, I imagine the writing you do around those two things is very different.
I think, yes, overall, it is different. You'll want to think of, well, what matters to these people and why? Who are they specifically? And that's the functional thing about a constraint. It's not a constraint if it is adding ambiguity overall. A constraint causes something you need to adapt to, and you want that because we want to have some specific enough words to make useful for this particular group. So particular person. So who's this for? It could be a specific person. You could say, I really want to make, my friend Andrea laugh, right? There you go. This, you know who it's for. You know why. You want to, it's to be playful and cause joy. So, but I get the whole thing of, well, it's enough to just think about the topic. Why do I have to think about who it's for? It's not necessarily going to fully change every single word that comes out of your mind, but it will cause I think it will cause you to adapt in in particular ways with even rough ideas that come out where like, hey, wait a minute, did I talk about this, like why, like the setup for this joke for this person, or did I mention how, because I'm talking to a technical audience that really cares about a particular kind of jargon, am I contextualizing this general thing in their specific way? Because without using their jargon, they're not going to probably fully groove on it, trust it, connect with it, because it doesn't feel like it feels other to them.
Yeah, I
So
was thinking about this morning when I was doing a live stream for my Patreon, and I started getting kind of like worked up and excited about the design language that I get to explore with the Baron von Bear's little ghosts, his wisps, and I started talking about how like, oh well, I get to express how their personality is in the way they move, and Violet moves in very angular motion, and Blue has like this crystalline kind of like frozen kind of glow around her, whereas Green has a very organic shape to his movement. And then I stopped myself. I said, is this interesting to anybody but me and other practitioners? Like, would this be interesting to a 12-year-old? Probably not, right? Not to diss on 12-year-olds, but what they're probably going to want to talk about is what happens in the story. What are the things that happen?
yeah, and right, what cool abilities and powers do these things, are they imbued with, and like what can they do with them?
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, empowerment is certainly a big um early reader thing, and or young adult thing. I mean, just empowerment, what it means for that particular age, right? So
What
that's a
about,
awesome example.
but what about what? Okay, so now you're sitting down to write. You got your audience in mind.
Yep.
So, what are the jobs that you're signing on for, Rob? Because I think there's more than one.
Yeah, for sure. There's like more constraints, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you know who you want to talk to and why, but then dig deeper as far as like, well, what do you want to say? So this is so time, knowledge, container, and audience. So for knowledge, what questions do you have about
Mm.
this? In like new questions, but also questions you just experienced exploring. Those like reminding yourself of that recent fresh experience that you had because of your things you were curious about, that's going to set you up for something to say. Well, now your purpose, but okay, you may know some things as far as questions, but like, why are you really saying this? Well, um you may have multiple purposes. For me, I have a blog that supports multiple creative projects. I consider my blog as a lab. This is my blog's at interactive-storyteller.com. And it's sort of my studio place where folks that visit it will get to notice I work on multiple kinds of things. But when I talk about one particular kind of thing, I don't assume you're into all the other things. I get into a mode that's focused about that particular why. So I talk about user experience design because I care about being an educator and teaching artists to help others find their way of including others in what they make. And that's a big deal to me. That's my why, right? So what's your why for this topic?
Mm.
Um, and then and then if you have questions, you probably have something to say, but really say, okay, do I have something to say on this? Because that is not a great way to set yourself up to succeed, to be saying, I need to do a bunch of research before I do this post. And what this mini workshop is about isn't that kind of thing. It's about a post you're ready to post, not a post that you need to get ready to post. Those are great and useful and powerful different kinds of places you can go with deep research and stuff. But that's a separate concern from what we're talking about here today. So, all right. So then you know who this is for and why. You know that you have you've got your audience, you've got your knowledge, set of concerns addressed. Um, but then what container, what size, volume, place, where's this going to go? Keep that in mind. Is this uh, if it's a blog post, like for me, I experienced the need to produce words and an image because how social networks uh, present my post is vastly improved when I include an image along with the post, right? So
Hmm.
I need to care about that because of where I'm going to put it. If this is just on my Facebook wall, maybe it doesn't need an image, that kind of thing. Or maybe the volume of words, is something I need to be extra careful with, because it's honestly something for a Discord community thing where you're like, I'm staying connected with my Discord community, is going to be a different volume than, well, maybe a blog post about a particular experience or other kinds of things. And then, so let's say you know your container. And by the way, my thing I like to based on my recent experience, is 500 words is a nice granularity. 500 words gets some amount of narrative and thoughtfulness about a concern out. And that's for me, right? That works for me. I think other folks could do it in less words, or it may take 700. But 500 is kind of a sweet spot that I've experienced. So I think it's a worthwhile thing to play with and find what works for you. And that's where I mentioned having that word counter in your place to write is very helpful. All right. So now last would be your time. So you're going to put some effort into this. You're going to put in different kinds of effort, right? Well, the writing hats to make this, useful work to meet your goals, right? You have a little bit of planning that we're doing right now. We're shaping constraints. This is the planning part of doing the work. Then you've got your writing to actually get the words out, but then you're editing and publishing. So useful to think that when you're starting this, it's probably not just, a haphazard thing. You can get through this task easier and faster by acknowledging different sort of jobs that need to get done. So, and then of course, there's the two different pieces of time to think about next would be the time how much time do you have available to make this? Do you only have 20 minutes? Do you have a few hours? Well, a few hours, you're for sure like you have super low risk, I think, to get 500 words done that meet the task in in a couple hours. 20 minutes, that might be a little tough. You might you could pull it off though. So worth noting. And then of course, when does it have to be done by? So maybe you have a few 20-minute sessions because this isn't due today. This is due next week or what have you. So worth noting. So that's so this is all about getting a post together that keeps you in touch with your, showing up for that community you're connected with. All right. So constraints. What do you think? Any thoughts on those?
No, I think that feels, you've mapped out a territory for me, and I feel prepared to engage with it. And I already started capturing a whole bunch of notes while you were talking about, like, the moment you started talking about like audience, it helped me shift my perspective to thinking about, well, what's a story I could tell about my childhood that relates to why these ideas of the story are important to me, to help somebody else who is a child reading this understand what this means in a non-technical, non-jargony way. So instead of talking about design language of the Bearmont Bears little wisp ghosts, let's talk about what their function is in the story, right? And relate it to something that I experienced as a child, right? So now I have a journey to build, and I even captured some philosophical thoughts about, like, okay, what are the bigger ideas behind it? That all revealed itself through you talking about these constraints. So now it's a matter of me figuring out, okay, well, where can I put this in my schedule? So finding 20 minutes someplace would be the next step. So let's suppose that I take my notes, I go for a walk for 10 minutes to, like, let the ideas crystallize, then I come back into my studio and I'm like, okay, 20 minutes, let's go. I'm ready. What happens?
All right. So then you're ready to start. But what kind of ready are you? So you've scheduled and you've showed up and you've done the planning job where you're like, okay, great. But now you got to switch into the writing job. And so this isn't always a natural instant transition for folks. it's not for me, and it depends on the day and what have you. But I
Mhm.
have a few different approaches that can help. And this is where we get into some prompts that sort of get you moving, right?
Okay.
And one is really wide open. Like, what are you ready to? So I'm going to experiment because I wonder. I want to show up, but I want you to be on the screen too, Jersey.
Oh, well, let me add me. I can do
All right,
that. We'll do that
and
right
you
now. What? What?
could
What's that?
actually. I could make myself smaller too. I don't need to be so big.
Well, I could just
All
be the
right,
little genie on your shoulder too.
nice. That's cool. That works too. All right.
There we go.
Um. Okay. So here you go. You're ready to write. Time to go for it. And I already started doing this. Something related to this, which is if you're really feeling ready, just start writing. And you can do a topic focused free write. I know free writing is more free than being focused, but this is what I think of as a really functional form of writing freely. And so, given your chosen constraints, write to see what comes out in response. So, um, so let's see why I know this matters. More people, just me. It's when you see a story, you care about, affects you. Let's say that I started writing that, but then I'm like, well, what I'm caring about today is user experience. It's a label. It mostly works. Some folks have big concerns about it, and some folks don't know what it means. And there we go. And I say thank you if you like my clacky keyboard right now, or I'm sorry. Either way, there would be
I,
guaranteed. Yep.
the clacking, it sounds like thoughtful input. So what I love about this is you've just narrowed it down to three things that matter to me about this.
Hmm.
And to yes and you, this is my process for doing my Fabulous Secrets microcasts, which I post on my Patreon. I always come up with like the topic and I try to say, okay, what are three things that make me feel either really happy, really sad, really angry, whatever elicits a big feeling in me. Can I name three? And I'll write them on a post-it note, and then that's the beginning. So what you just did there is exactly what I do for my microcast anyway.
The name three, that is like, it's a very functional format. And I thought about including that for sure as one of the, I'm glad you brought it up because it's, it is such a powerful framing of getting ideas out, because it's not just saying one thing, it's not just saying two things where just something adjacent to something else. That's better than it gives you some travel for your ideas, but then three beats is more travel for your ideas. It's more angles of comparison. So that is a very functional prompt to consider, is say three things about this. And
Mm-hmm.
that kind of came out as I was working on this raw set of thoughts here. um
That's also triangulation. That's literally what triangulation is. Find 3 points, right?
right, yeah, exactly. Okay, so if you're feeling that and you just keep going, right? So um that is a very functional approach to get those words out. But then, and so if I were to keep going on this, just to point this out, like, so then, like Jersey mentioned, I might start with label and then start doing some thoughts about that. It's just start asking why do we use labels, and how does that matter to this label of UX?
You're doing good pedagogy with yourself in that you're asking how and why questions instead of yes or no or what questions, right?
That's well, thank you. Yeah, you will get more thoughts if you have a thread to pull on. Like, there's if you've just said, "Do labels matter? Are labels cool?" No, and now, so let's try that. Are labels cool? No. Um, because I said so is one way to do it. because I think so. You notice how I'm starting to write and have some dialogue with my own words that are coming out, but got to just keep getting the words out. So, can I back up this point? Let's see. All right. I mean, just because you use a yes or no answer as a cue for yourself, you don't have to you can reply to your own cue points or prompts. You can be prompting yourself, which is that's a good way to it's what we're demonstrating here is doing free writing and then prompting yourself as you can continue. So I don't have to answer the our labels cool question, right?
Right.
So I can go any other direction I want. So I could I can promote these things to that they're separate sections. I'm going to expound upon this. But I don't necessarily do a lot of that sectioning yet. But if it comes out, it comes out.
Okay.
So all right, let's talk about more prompts, more prompt strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So you may not be ready to write this way. So try a question. Try to do another it's almost like there's we talked about implicit prompts where you're prepared enough, you've got enough of a context and you can just start writing, and then the writing generates more writing. Or what if you need to ask yourself a question or a fill in the blank to get stuff moving? So let's try a couple things. And I actually forgot that, yeah, I did have what three things make matter to you on this. So there we go. That's powerful. So we already did that. So, but just to, be doubly clear, if you didn't have stuff just pop up, you can just say, what three, you literally can type that, get words out, make the page not blank, right?
Mm-hmm.
What three things matter to me about the label of UX? So it's almost like, it speaks to practitioners, to build valuable skill that serves people. It makes things better for humans, right? Help. All right. So I'm paraphrasing in my text, and then let's see. So I'm just going to numbered list this so it speaks to. So then I can continue. All right. So then that's the 3 prompt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if that is, if you're not responding to the 3 prompt very well, I would go back and say, are you sure you're ready to talk about this?
Yeah.
Because that's a good sign. And then you can, if you say, no, I think I am, you then try another thing like, all right, use temporal framing. So what did I just realize about this topic? What did I realize about labels and user experience recently? So, let's see what, I noticed that it's divisive in some cases.
So now you're digging into personal anecdote. Where does this come from? What experience have you had that have made you so interested in this topic?
Yep, exactly. And then you can say, like, why am I struggling with this?
Mm-hmm.
Because and honestly, I think the community has other important work to do. I think the label matters a bit less than than application of UX skills to help people. So, and then like another thing to add on to that. So that's what I'm struggling with. But then how did it all start? And here's where I may say, I'm not going to say, because this is a whole subtweet, or I am going to say, because it's important to, thread dialogue and connect and try to integrate. But, this is where you could add that or not. Another prompt is a question, is to say, what is the big personal truth that you feel about this? That that feeling is a catalyst that can get the words out of you, right? Even if you're like, I don't want to tell people I'm grumpy, you know, I don't want to tell, just get started with the feeling, and then, you can ungrump it later. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, let's say, uh, yeah. Oop, you ever thought?
I just think about, like, sometimes when I'm thinking about people who have ideas that I fundamentally disagree with, when I'll be talking about them in casual conversation with friends or in my first draft, I might put these dum dums, I'll put that in there, right? I would never say that in any kind of public discourse or any proper piece of writing, because it is not functional in that context, right? So you can say, here's how their position is fundamentally wrong. But doing an ad hominem attack, like that feels very cathartic when I'm around friends or when I'm doing first draft, but it's only there to release that tension and point to the tensions that I could be more careful and thoughtful about how I engage with it, right?
That, yeah, you're leaving a breadcrumb trail, and
Mm.
but you're actually going on the trail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just dumping a bunch of bread next to you and not moving, right? Um, you like letting that come out, even if it's contentious, is I mean, you're doing the writing. The point is to do to get the writing out of you. The right word, it is the essence of conceptual creative work. It is very analogous to sketching. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and you say all the time that, I mean, you're sketching to you're putting down the wrong lines so you can find the right ones, right?
Yep, that's very analogous to first draft, second draft, final copy for sure.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and answer this. My personal truth is, I worry that we will lose uh, let's see, we'll lose the ability to spread human-centered design if we keep fighting
Mm.
each other about labels.
I'm the most noble. No, I'm the most noble. Get out of here. You're not noble enough.
And whether this is like, I can come up with stuff that makes this like it's a defensible stance. It's not just a worry, it's a detection of a symptom, and that needs to be, we need to spread awareness, because there's more to it. It's not about figuring out the more to it yet. It's just getting the it out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There you go. So that's the job of a prompt. So okay. You can also fill in blanks too. Like, you could just literally if Mad Libs, if I know those are trademarked and all this kind of stuff, whatever, but like, if you've played games that where you fill in blanks and you say butt and fart a lot in the paragraphs,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they make you giggle, like, that's a good tool, right? But you'll probably want to say other things, I imagine. Things like, I have blank to say about blank, right? For first example, when blank, right? Just get that functioning, um like, you're prompting and saying, just say this part, just say this part, don't say all the rest of the part, just say that part. And that lets you focus. So again, to start to get the words out, so you can continue to get the words out. All right. So now again, when if you still aren't ready to write, if you've prompted yourself a few times and you find yourself stuck, again, I question, are you sure you picked the right topic? And if you are sure, then this is a technique we've mentioned recently on the show. And also, I was a guest on a friend's podcast, Craig Andera, at the Get Smarter and Get Make Stuff and Get Smarter.com podcast, where there's a thing that Craig, I've known that he's done for years, that I forgot about, that it came up, and it's the whole do something for 1 second. and then you're actually doing it. So sure, you've planned, but have you put on the writer hat yet? If you haven't, put it on for 1 second. See what comes out.
Mm.
Slowly expand your resilience to the resistance, and then try to write for 10 seconds, and then try to, like, whatever comes out comes out, and then increase to 2 minutes. And eventually, if you get up to like a 20-minute session, that's a pretty functional chunk of time to get some writing done. And if you go for more, fantastic. But um, you have to get unstuck in order to get the post done. So this is food for thought, to say, if you're that blocked, well, that's something that you need to change. So, all right. Well, what do you think, Jersey? Ready to go to the next phase?
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, that sounds very manageable. I'm also reminded of the unsinkable. Is it Incredible Kimmy Schmidt or Unsinkable Kimmy Schmidt, where she's
Oh,
like she has to run the crank for the generator in the bunker, and she's like everything is tolerable for only 10 seconds. So she just runs it for 10 seconds, then counts another 10 seconds, then counts another 10 seconds.
mm,
But the idea is in there, and this is something we've been talking about in this project for a long time. Is a 2 minute practice. Is like 2 minutes is a findable amount of time, and it's got a clear light at the end of the tunnel. If it's that painful to write for 2 minutes, well, you're gonna be done in 2 minutes, right? You get to stop.
right.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Very much wrapped into that. And it gives you a little cycle to sort of deal with the dealing with it,
hmm
and hopefully you'll find a way to keep moving.
hmm
Um, okay, so now, so you started writing. Um, Try to get to 300 words or so. So in your, like, even in this dialogue, I haven't been typing and writing every single thing I've been saying, but I'm at 152 words just, from this,
wow.
demo session, right? 152 words. They're not the greatest arrangement of thoughts and stuff, because we've gone through different, trails of thought and examples, but let's see. But I could say, like, which one of these is the most functional, that I can get to some more words. And so maybe I want to, take out these words, and I want to take out these words, and I'm really only at 16 words. But um, you um following along with this, you will probably not be jumping toward all these different things. So let's say we've got um do 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 let's say I started writing. I'm going to pull the cooking show trick, um and do that, and do a little bit of editing and say that. So I am at like 328 words, with essentially just, I ended up just exploring labels so far. So that's a sign that
Mm.
I may have a longer post in me, or maybe I just want to make this post about labels and give it enough context to make that focus make sense, and cover more in another post. Um, okay. But you get to this point where you've developed your, you got enough words out where you're at around the 300 word mark, and it's a good time to do some reviewing, and more sense making and shaping that, so you don't end up with, like, something I've stumbled with sometimes is that I can keep writing 1 to 300 words on different angles over and over and over, but they don't weave together, right?
Mm.
So I'm all of a sudden at 2,000 words, and I don't have an article. um, so that can happen, and one way to avoid generating is to stop yourself and say, well, where am I at here? So you can
Mm.
review what you wrote, read it out loud, and make edits. Look for things like clear language, beats, examples, jargon that really connect with that audience that you're trying to reach. Um, And then you could also do some chunking it out into different headlines. So I might have realized that, well, I thought I was doing labels as only a section in a bigger document, but now I'm actually going to promote this where it's going to be um, these are just points on the label idea, and then and then I'm going to make other major points, and that's really going to be talking about how I get how labels matter, and how can we make sense of that, and still keep putting human-centered design to use. Maybe that's where I'm sort of reshaping this stuff so it makes sense as an overall message, right? Um, so, and that would come from giving it a read through. All right, labels. Why do we label things for things in the world? Favorite. Okay, so I could go on. I'm not going to read this whole article in this workshop, but actually reading out loud lets you hear your words. I'm just going to pick a random sentence. I'm going to read it, the heading, and then one sentence after that. All right, another section. Knowing an aspect of ourselves and one another. Is that a clear heading? Identifying groups where we feel belonging and recognizing each other's differences individually and collectively. That's another labeling other situation. Ooh, how do I feel about that? So then I can ask myself this: is this clear? Is this moving this whole point along? And is it in a good order? Because wait a minute, I think I found this happens a lot when in writing, and I didn't believe it when I heard others say it, so what have you, but like as you're writing, you're going to have like this clear thought that in a way encapsulates all the whole message, right? And it'll come out in a sentence or paragraph, and that should be your lead, probably, right?
Yeah, that's where the term burying the lead comes from.
That makes a lot of sense.
LEDE.
Yep, I bury that lead like it were my side gig. It's like I bury leads left and right. So, all right. So knowing ourselves and aspects, I get how labels matter. Labels let us. All right. So, so I'm all of a sudden I'm reshaping and reordering because I did that thing where, okay, so I reordered and I'm reading out loud and reshaping what's helping this become more clear. But then I found that strong point, right? That's one of the best things to find when you're reordering is put that strong point right in the beginning, and then continue writing if it needs it. You could have arrived at finishing your post with this reshaping with 300 words. 300 words can be enough, but if it's not, you can consider a couple more prompts. So describe. Well, so what are you liking so far about this post? Add more of that. That's a prompt. So what do I like so far about this post? I like that it's getting more focused on labels, but still hasn't lost sight of the idea of the whole specific label of user experience design. And then, so I'm answering that prompt question for myself. And do I need more of that? Now I can think about that. Another prompt, you can think about, well, what's missing? What do you wish were in this post? Give some words about that. Like, oh, wait a minute. I wish I had some reference to some information architecture, like inspiration, right? Information architecture is such a, taxonomy and vocabulary is such a big deal. And I'm talking to like an expert audience with this. I'm talking to user experience designers who are going to care about that. Anyway, so then I should go and add some words about how labels and taxonomy are important to have, shape and make sense of a space of ideas. So
What I heard in there was a zigzagging in your thought in that, like, what do I wish there was in there? And then because this is the audience that I'm talking to. That's why I wish it was there. So there's my desire and the desire to be of service to them is a way that you like sort of checked the statement for truth.
That's a really good point. Thank you. It's yeah, those constraints don't disappear once you've started writing. So yeah, good to keep them integrated with the prompts and how you respond. All right. So so then we put in enough work and let's say and I realize that I needed a section and I'm doing the cooking show metaphor again and boop. And now I'm up to 513 words. And what is really important to me is that I need to finish this and I need to get it out because this posting is in part about showing up and being of service and connecting and being a connectable point with an audience that cares about a particular topic, right? So, all right, I need to finish this. So I'm saying this is close to done, but I need to be sure it's ready to publish, right? So I'm going through those different hats, like acknowledging that I'm putting time in for sure as different ways of looking at this, creating a post endeavor. So I'm going to reread what I wrote again and make any tweaks and edits. And along the way, I'm doing, I could use tools like, I know there's whole websites you can get subscriptions to and stuff, but like I use a tool called marked.app. And for articles where I'm like, I really want to, make sure this is extra crisp and refined, I will use something like that where it is in a way it's like a markdown previewer that has baked in things like what level what group what reading level heuristic is this, right? um it looks for passive voice. That can be a passive voice can be a thing to try to uh, it's not the strong it's a way to avoid accountability in writing, and it has a kind of um it doesn't have a great ring to it when you read that stuff written in a passive voice. You will not come off as clear thinking or helping others be. It's almost like you're trying to pass off a bit of truth as um, well, but not owning it, right? So,
Is
um,
this the app by Brett Terpstra?
yeah, it is.
Okay. Well, then I will pull it up so we can see marked 2, markdown preview.
Mm-hmm. Really cool app. If that fits your workflow, it's available on Mac, and you can. They're not a sponsor, but you can buy it both through the set app subscription, so it comes with a bunch of other apps, but now you have a subscription, or you can buy it individually. So really good tool, because in a way it's kind of like getting a little bit of coaching on like you use passive voice a little bit, or you use this same word a whole bunch of times kind of thing. So if you depends on the formality and all that kind of stuff. If you're going to your personal lab blog and the voice is less formal, you did enough to make sure you had a good message. You don't have to torture yourself about perfection in this message. So depends on your venue and what you feel is at stake with that. So if you want to do at least doing spell check, and then also looking for any links you missed, is it worth linking to other things that give credit or are convenient in that they're important other ideas mentioned and stuff like that. So adding links you missed is a worthwhile step along this way, and then publish. So there you go.
There's
so
the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So that that's a process. This is what I found is like these different things have been working for me to get stuff shipped, but of course there's all kinds of other paths to this.
Very cool. Well, I have a feeling that you're going to have some prompts for us to try in this mini workshop. But before we do that, maybe we should take a break, and then.
All right.
So, Okay, so let me get rid of my webcam on your video and I'll switch back to, there we go. So, if this mini workshop is helping you think and do useful creative work, a great way to help the show is to buy the products we make. And the thing that I would like you to interact with, you don't even have to buy it. There's nothing to buy. It's a free thing. And it's related to this topic in that it is the 4 Million Years Later podcast, a story analysis show. It answers the question, does creativity thrive in freedom or constraints? This is a story analysis podcast wherein the subject of study is the 1980s Transformers cartoon. But I'm not into Transformers, Jersey. Wait. We watch an episode a week and dig deep to explore the story's structure and meaning. We infer the writer's intentions and synthesize them within the context of the conflicting needs of a daily television show explicitly designed to advertise toys. So yes, it's about the Transformers, but it's also, the meta is like analyzing what we're reacting to, noticing it, and putting language to it. So you can find it at 4millionyearslater.com or in podcatchers everywhere.
Well, and I make a workshop or a bunch of workshops. One of those I would think you will get a great amount of utility out of getting your own copy would be listening like a coach. This is about helping folks getting unstuck in their projects and goals by helping them think through things. And you're that navigator, that guide. And you might think, well, wait a minute, why is this useful? Why does that sound helpful? Well, you're someone who practices the creativity, pursuit, navigate, like discipline of making the stuff, and you practice, choosing what you make and all this stuff all the time. You will work with other collaborators and peers who just come up and will ask you things, I would imagine, from time to time. And so when you're in that position, if someone asks you for advice, do you want to just tell them what they should do, or you want to get into more about their thinking and how they see it and help them explore a process of coaching so you can grow as a leader or a coaching peer, as a fellow artist, where you're helping people just unpack and navigate forward through whether it's a career concern or what's the next big project or book or topic they should take on. um, Opportunities, there's always these puzzles when we're making stuff, and you can help others find their own way through that, and it helps you grow in your career as well. So you can get your own copy of Listening Like a Coach at gum.co/LLACWS. And again, that URL is gum.co/LLACWS.
Okay, well, let's look at our prompt. What is the prompt we're going to try, Rob?
Well, so I assume you have somewhere that needs a post. You somewhere your audience is calling out to you. You want to respond to them with a post, and use this process to write a blog post, to create an email or a newsletter or a Twitter thread, even. Um, Having a well thought out Twitter thread can have a good flow to it, or even a forum post, whether it's Patreon, Discord, or Slack, anywhere. The
Mm.
If you put together your thoughts in this kind of way, where you've shaped them with the constraints and all that, where you've sort of pulled on a way to get your own ideas out in some way that you care about, like, that's just going to speak to people, and so that's a worthwhile thing. um what you need to do this is just a text editor of some sort. You can you can be the super disciplined, calculated stunt person who says, I'm on a laptop where if the power goes out and I'm hitting save frequently enough, and I don't I really am pretty sure this WordPress form isn't going to eat my post. Go for it then. That's great. I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. Wherever you feel like this is where I write, go ahead and write there. And I think it's useful to have that word count mechanism. Just lets you know how wordy you're being, or was that too wordy, not wordy enough yet? And that's a helpful thing along the way. Um, so let's see what else would be required to try. Um, I think even if you don't know like how you want to say something, but just knowing what you want to say, just you have something. It's worth it. And I'll say these encouraging words. You for sure have words to say, like any and more than you probably realize, and the words are in you, and letting them out will work.
That's good. Yeah, and trusting the process of putting the words out to find what you're really trying to say. I don't know how many times on this very podcast I have been doing what I playfully call my intellectual tumbling down the stairs to finally arrive at, I think I'm saying this, and then you come back with even more clarity, right? Um, and it's a tough one because we can get bewildered by our first thought of what the function of this writing is supposed to be. So, for instance, one of the things that I wrote down after participating in this workshop is I have a welcome to my mailing list email to write for my new MailChimp account that I have last week mentioned for the first time. Join me for the journey of making Baron von Baron. And I logged into MailChimp and was like, hey, you didn't do a welcome email yet when people sign up. I'm like, oh, that's right. Well, I got to do that. And my first thought was, well, I'll use this to set their expectations. These are the things I'm going to share with you. I'm like, well, those are facts. And also those are fungible facts because like you may change your mind later on. So does that really like activate anybody? Does it tell them why they hit yes to the subscribe button? Or can I tell the story of why telling these personal stories through talking animal characters is important to me? Where does it come from in my biography? What did I learn when I was a young person from fiction that helped sustain me? And why am I putting that into my work now? Right? Whoa, that's a lot different introduction, right?
Now I feel more connected to you and your ideas.
Yeah. Yep.
It's different. And I know we all have all kinds of writing that can start as um a catalog table of contents. And okay, but make that just one of your constraints and add more to it, because you're going to find something in there. You're going to find something that about the why and what matters to you, what matters to your audience. It's in there. You put some words out, but maybe not enough. So that's really cool. It sounds like this might have been useful for your newsletter. Looking forward to that.
Got it right here. Got it captured.
Nice.
So thanks, Rob. I think this is a good workshop. So
what's next? Summary?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Let's review what we talked about today.
Yeah. Let's review. Okay. So again, you want to write a post quickly and have it really mean something to you and your audience. Here, use these prompts and constraints. So get prepared. Have an idea about the effect of time. What do you know, and what are you ready to say? What container? Where's this going to go? And your audience. Why would they care about it? So those constraints are really useful to you throughout this entire writing process. They don't have to block you, but you check in, and they get you started, and they get you verified along the way. Then you get going. Free write or choose a prompt and ask yourself that, to answer it. Get the words out. Those are your answer. Put the words into your text editor. And then after about 300 words or so, you've got enough maybe to shape and edit and continue down a more focused path than if you keep generating more words and ideas. Those 300 words with a little bit of reshaping, you may have your strong idea already. Put that in the front of your copy, and then keep going to finish it with final edits and maybe some links, and then refer to the stuff that helped make this possible and is are also useful to know. Such a great media. Hypertext is powerful and amazing. And then post it. There you go. That's our process for getting a prompt out that matters. Write a post quickly with some prompts and constraints.
Sweet. Thank you, Rob. Anything left to cover before we close it out?
No, I don't think so. I didn't mention, you can see over 100 examples of me exploring and discovering and figuring this out on my blog at interactive-storyteller.com, which I'll mention in the closing also. But that's where I worked through this and helped me put this together to share with you today.
Well, I'm grateful that you took the time to package up your experience and transmit it in a way that we can all act upon it. So thanks for that, Rob. That feels very lean into arty.
Oh yeah, that's the practice. Love it.
All right. Well, let's all try writing from prompts, and please consider liking and subscribing to this video, or if you're listening to the audio, giving us a 5-star review wherever you listen to us. Write a review, that helps more people find the show as well. And don't forget to hang out. If you have any comments, questions, thoughts, or wonderings, come hang out in the Lean Into Art Discord at leanintoart.com/discord. And the audio podcast is at leanintoart.com and patreon.com/leanintoart. Until next time, I've been Jersey Drozd of rss.jdrozd.com.
Oh, and I've been Rob Stenzinger. You can find my stuff at interactive-storyteller.com.
Okay, bye.
Show notes for this episode can be found at leanintoart.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at the user leanintoart, and you can reach us via email at leanintoart@gmail.com. And remember, leaners aren't wieners. Thanks for listening.